All right, so today I'm going to talk about covered calls. I want to explain why you should consider options and why covered calls are not as intimidating, not as complex, not anywhere as risky as you've been told they are. They are a really valuable way to augment the performance of your long stock, and it almost works like a dividend depending on how often you want to sell these calls. So let me just explain how it works before I show you. Let's say you have 100 shares of PG&E, which goes by the ticker PCG. So normally, if you have 100 shares of long stock, meaning you're not short, you own 100 shares, then you only make money when PG&E goes up in value. There's really no other way. And if you get a dividend, then that's great. You get a little bit of boost on your annual performance, but usually the dividend is not anywhere enough to offset some major drops in the stock price. So what if there was a way that you could offset some of the loss so your earnings weren't so linear, meaning you could make at least some money back if PG&E went down versus 100% loss of, if PG&E goes down $10, you will suffer 100% of that $10 loss. There's no other way around it. You didn't have any kind of protection. You didn't buy a put. You didn't sell anything. So if PG&E goes down $100 or by $10, then those 100 shares you own, it's going to be $10 per share. So you basically lost $1,000. Now, the option of covered calls, and it's called an option because you'll understand why in a moment. It creates an obligation for the seller. It creates a right, but not an obligation for the buyer. So here's how it would work with a simple covered call. So again, you have 100 shares of PG&E. You haven't done anything with it. It's just sitting there. And let's say PG&E is trading at $7. So what would be the price that you would be happy to sell PG&E for? Would it be $10? Would it be $15? Let's say $10. Maybe you got into PG&E at $5 cost basis. Doesn't matter. But let's say you'd be happy to sell all 100 of your shares if PG&E went to $10. So here's how a covered call gives you a double benefit. First, by selling a covered call at $10, which is called the strike price, you get to keep any earnings of PG&E up to $10. So if PG&E goes up to $8, $9, $9.90, you keep all those gains. But if you sell a covered call at $10, that allows you to offload your shares automatically. So it locks in that sale price, and you don't have to worry about PG&E going up any higher than $10. You've locked in that sales price. But the other advantage is that when you sell that covered call, you're taking on a burden to yourself. You are saying, if PG&E goes to $10, I'm happy to sell that. However, if PG&E goes above $10, well, you're going to miss out on those profits. So that's the downside you're accepting. And that is why the other side, the option buyer, would want to buy that covered call. In other words, they don't know if it's a covered call or not. They just want to buy that call option, which gives them the right, but not the obligation, to own those shares of PG&E at $10. And why would they do that? Because they think PG&E is going to go above $10 before the expiration of the option that they bought. So maybe they think if they pay a few dozen dollars, maybe up to a couple $100, depending on factors like how far out the expiration is, implied volatility. If they pay a few, let's say $50 to buy a 1 month call option for PG&E, they have 1 month to decide whether they want to exercise that call option. Now, if PG&E stays at or below $10 for the next month, then there's no reason for that option buyer to exercise their right as an option buyer. In other words, there's no reason that they would want to take your shares at $10 if PG&E is trading on the open market for less than that. Why would they lock in a purchase price of $10 if they can go out in the open market and buy it for $7 or $8 or $9 per share? They would just lock in a loss. But where it would make sense for them is if PG&E goes to $10 and keeps going. So if PG&E in December of 2020, which is about a month from now, and let's just assume they chose a 1 month expiration. So today is around what's today, the 15th. Today is whatever it is. All right, so today is Monday, November 18th. So let's say they want to buy the option with an expiration of about 1 month from now. And that's going to be around the 15th or so of December. So if PG&E by any time from now until mid-December goes above $10, and let's say PG&E has a huge bump up because it is pretty overbought. I'm sorry, PG&E is pretty oversold. There's been a lot of bearish sentiment. It's pretty oversold. So let's say in December, PG&E goes to $15 a share. Well, with a person who locked in that right to buy PG&E at $10 a share, i.e. the option buyer, would it make sense for them to exercise their right to buy PG&E for $10 when it's actually trading for $15? Yes, it would. So that's where both sides are benefited. Now, there's very few instances in investing, especially in the stock market, where it's not zero sum, where both sides can profit. And this would be an instance of that rare occasion. So the option seller, let's say that's me, I own the shares of PG&E, I own 100 shares, I sold one call option. And one call option or call contract controls 100 shares. So if I wanted to sell 2 call options and make those covered calls, there's complex ways to do it where you don't have to own the shares. Don't want to confuse you right now. You can ask me about it if you care, but I don't want to be that professor that teaches you everything I know and teaches you nothing. So if I own 200 shares and I want to do a covered call on all 200 shares, then what I would do is sell 2 covered calls. Let's say I own 1,000 shares and I want to keep 500 shares. How many covered calls would I sell? 5. Got it? One call option, one contract controls 100 shares. I hope that makes sense. If you don't understand anything, just move along, ask me in the comments or direct message. I'll explain it to you. All right, so going back, how do we both profit on this with a covered call? Well, the way is I sell 100 shares controlled by one contract. Basically, I'm willing to give up those 100 shares if the option buyer exercises their right. And the only reason they would do that is if PG&E goes above $10. Now, keep in mind, my cost basis was around $5. So if PG&E goes to $10, I would have sold it anyway. And I'm happy to sell that call option because what it does is 2 things. One, it's like a limit order in a sense. It gets me out at a certain strike price, so I don't have to manually enter that order. I know I want to get rid of these shares at a $10 per share price so I can profit. It takes care of that automatically. But that's not enough to be compensated for. I get compensated because I've locked in my max profit. I've capped my profit at $10 a share. So anything above $10 a share, I don't get to enjoy. The option buyer does because they paid money up front with the expectation that PG&E would be bullish, would go up before the end of that contract or at the end of the contract. So they have the right but not the obligation to exercise that call option anytime from now until mid-December. And that's a great quality that American options have. European options are different. Again, not the point of this video. I just want you to come away from the understanding of a covered call. So I'm going to summarize and then we're done. Covered call allows you, the owner of the long shares, to cap your profits and still enjoy a profit, but take in a premium for taking on that burden of having a capped profit. And a covered call makes sense if you know what price you would be willing to sell those shares at. It also benefits you because if PG&E does not hit $10 before that expiration, and even if it just stays stagnant, then assuming all the other variables are equal, which we'll talk about another time, you can make money every day through what's called theta decay, time decay. So every day that PG&E doesn't make a move higher, it stays stagnant or goes down, you will see a little bit higher profit percentage for that option you sold until it gets to the expiration and PG&E is trading below $10, when you will see 100% profit for that call option. In other words, you could close out, if you change your mind on this call option, and let's say PG&E has gone down and you sold that call option for $50, meaning you took in a premium of $50. Well, if there's just a couple days left before that option expires in December and PG&E is below $10, then you're usually going to see profit of around 70, 80, even 90%. So you could buy back that option because now it's decreased in value for much cheaper, and you keep almost all of that premium. You would keep 100% of the premium if you let the option go to expiration and PG&E closed below $10, because that option buyer is not going to exercise the option and exercise the right to buy PG&E for $10 if they can buy it on the market for cheaper than that, because PG&E is trading at $8 or $9. So you would keep 100% of that premium. And if you sold that 1 month premium that expires in December, then when it expires, you just rinse and repeat. So, it's going to be around December 15th, usually the third Friday of the month. So you let that option expire, or you buy it before then for a profit because you buy it back for cheaper than you sold it and you pocket the difference. And then you sell another option that expires in a month. And you just keep doing that over and over and over again. You can do that every month. And let's say, PG&E right now in November is trading at around $7. But let's say in December, it's trading at $9.90. So it's a lot higher, it's a lot closer, but it still didn't hit $10. So what you do then, when that option for $10 expires, then you just sell another PG&E call option, this time for $15. So you're just riding it up. And now you do the same thing again. So in December, you sell the January expiration. It's going to expire around mid-January, around January 15th, third Friday of January. And you sell it for $15 this time because now it's gone up. So you take in a premium, let's say it's around $50 again. PG&E goes up, it goes down, it goes sideways, it goes up again. But in mid-January, it's not at $15 again, it's around 14 something, maybe it's at $14.90, doesn't matter, it's not at $15. So that option expires, that January option expires again, and then you rinse and repeat. So let's say, since PG&E is trading at just below $15, you sell the February call option for $20, because PG&E has been rising up, but you've been lucky because it hasn't hit that strike option, so you've kept your shares, you've kept premium for 2 months now that you took in, that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise if you just had your shares sitting there. And there was no change to your shares because that call option wasn't exercised. So you keep all of your shares, you keep all of the premium, and then you sell it again. Let's say, since PG&E is trading around $15, then you sell the $20 expiration. And of course, you've kept three things here. You've kept all of your shares, you've kept all of the premium that you sold for the last 3 months, and you're offsetting the cost basis. So if you sell enough of these covered calls, you could eventually own the underlying shares outright. And plus, you've enjoyed the appreciation of PG&E this whole time. And not only has it cost you nothing to do these covered calls, you've made a nice side income from selling the right, but not the obligation for someone to take away your shares at the price you would have sold them for anyway. All right, so a lot of people don't understand covered calls. Maybe this helps. Maybe you're more confused than you were before. I hope not. Let me know if this video sucks. Let me know if I don't have enough microphones on because I could find more. The reason I'm doing this is I've had some audio issues in the past. I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm going to figure out which microphone is the best and most reliable. All right, so let me show you how a covered call would look on the screen. So, all right, so we have PG&E, it's PCG, and this is the trader app. So this is TD Ameritrade. It's my favorite, but so we go here and we go to options, and then you'll see the options for every expiration. So PG&E sells weekly options. It's not that they do it. It's the Chicago Board of Options Exchange, and there's another one, Clearing Corporation. But basically, it shows how many expirations we have. So let's say we go to the December option. That's going to be December 13th. December 13th. If we go to a calendar, you can see that December 13th is probably going to be around the third Friday of December, I'd have to guess. Yep. So December 1st. No, it's the second Friday. I suppose that has something to do with Christmas, I guess. All right, but in January, the third Friday is the 17th. Yeah, so it's always, around, the 15th. Whatever's the closest to the 15th is usually when it's going to be. They try to make it around the mid of the month. So let's go back to the Trader app. And, you can see January, it's the 17th. It's always around the 15th of the month, which is the monthly option. Otherwise, these are weekly. If you want to sell them weekly, you can. I wouldn't recommend doing that at first. You have to monitor it a lot more. But the benefit to a monthly option is you just set it and forget it, and then you check in again closer to expiration, around 3 to 3.5 weeks later. You don't have to do anything until then. And you're making money every day that the underlying stock doesn't move closer to that strike price. So if you sold a $10 December covered call, then you don't have to do anything until maybe a week before December. Then you start monitoring it. And you still don't have to worry, because if you wanted to get out at $10 per share, then you just let the option be exercised. And then when they exercise that option, you just will have 100 fewer shares. If you had 100 shares to begin with and you sold one covered call, then you're back to zero. You own no shares, but you kept the profit up to $10 on the stock, and you kept the premium for the covered call you sold. So let's say we want to sell that December 13th option. We bring up the options table. Now this looks confusing. Don't worry. Just go down to the middle of it and see right here where we can go down to 10. So that's the strike price. Okay, so we start there. Well, we actually started at the date, right? We decided when we want to sell it, December 13th. Then next step was we decide on the strike price, $10. And then if we want to sell that $10 strike, we'd go to the bid price. And it's very weak. There's not much demand for that. It's 1 cent. So you basically make $1 because it's 1 cent per share times 100. So not really worth it. We'd have to sell it a little bit closer. So if we sold, say, the $8 strike, then we'd only keep a profit from where it is now, from $7 until $8. So we sell 0.53. We're going to take in $53. We're doing the $8 strike. We click under bid, click on the 0.53, and it's just going to be a covered call. We hit trade, and then it's showing that in parentheses means it's a credit. So we'll take in about $52 for selling that covered call. So to recap again, make sure it's fully sinking in. Covered call allows you to sell, to give someone the right to take away your shares at the price you wanted to get out anyway, but you take in a premium for selling that covered call. And if you want to get back to normal, if you want to close out that call option before they take away your shares, then you can buy it back. And if the expiration of that option comes and the stock hasn't reached that price that you wanted to get out at, then you keep 100% of that premium and you can sell it again at the expiration. So that's the most basic entry into options trading. Covered call is very safe. You really have no way to lose money on that because you already own the shares. The downside is that it caps your profit. So if someone can tell me of a way that a covered call can make you lose money, then I would like to hear that. As long as you don't sell it below the strike price. So in other words, if PG&E is trading at $7 and I sell the covered call for $5 because I think PG&E is going even below that, well, that's a way you could lose money, because you are allowing someone to buy the shares for $5, and if PG&E is trading at $10 by then, well, you're going to possibly lose money. That's a little more complicated. Don't get confused with that. Just go back to the basics. You own the shares at a certain price. You sell the call option for higher than that price. If the stock doesn't close at that higher price by the end of the expiration, then you keep 100% of the premium and you keep 100% of those shares. That is it. Thank you.